Hello, friends. Welcome back to
I was just going to say, wait, where's the welcome back?
We have to welcome them back.
I know, but you always say that.
I just wanted to mix it up and not say it first this time.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Please continue.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome to Unfiltered Goals if you're joining us for the first time. This is Cole and Gouda coming at you, and I believe we're counting this as the beginning of the next season.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Season 2. We wanted to just quickly apologize. We did not have a final goodbye in our last season. We did have the recap episode, but we were planning on a Pride episode, and due to some scheduling conflicts, we weren't able to record it before the wedding and before the honeymoon, so it just worked out. Hopefully we get to interview Parker at some point when she's in town again. But today what we're going to talk about is just a recap of our wedding and our honeymoon.
I know. It's crazy. It feels like it was a really long time ago, but realistically it was about a month ago already, which is crazy.
Yeah, coming up, it's 6 days. It'd be a month ago, yeah.
So I definitely want to get into the wedding. I feel like you and I have not even really had a chance to sit down and talk about the wedding all that much. I'll go ahead and start with the fact that it was the best day ever. It was...
Wow.
It was so not stressful. And we had a couple of little baby hiccups throughout the day, but honestly, I cannot imagine like a wedding going as smoothly as ours did. Would you agree?
I completely agree. And there's like the cliche that like the groom doesn't have any stress ever when it comes to the wedding day, which I felt very much a part of all the planning that came up to that point. You obviously did way more work than I did. But because we had our lovely wedding coordinator, it made things so easy. And if you didn't listen to the episode, we talked about our wedding and wedding planning. So our venue actually came with a wedding planner, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a bit more money, but at the end of the day, it resulted in us not having any stress, and it was worth every penny.
I was going to say the things that like now looking back on it, some of the things that I would say 100% was worth a little bit extra, or just the money itself. There are two things that come to mind. One was the fact of having a coordinator day of. So like whether that comes with a venue or not, having a wedding planner, wedding coordinator, whatever you want to call it. I think a planner is more like the person who helps you up until the wedding. I'm not sure if a wedding planner is like their day of, if that's the same as a wedding coordinator. I'm not really sure.
She acted as both.
But she was amazing, and she helped that day. She kept everything like on the timeline that we had. She was like rallying people together for photos and for getting the bridesmaids and the groomsmen set for whatever they needed to get done. So that was 100% worth the extra money. And the other thing to me, which you didn't have a lot of experience with them, but we used a design company called Atmosphere Indie, and they were unbelievable. They were amazing throughout the planning. I do not have a creative bone in my body. And so the idea of doing table arrangements and greenery and things like that was way over my head. And so I reached out to them and I was like, hey, I'm interested in using you guys for the wedding. And they were like, all right, these are some of our ideas. And we worked together to plan like what the centerpieces were going to look like and all the things. And then they showed up the day before the wedding. They put everything together and they were like, I think they asked me a total of 3 questions the day of, not of the wedding, but when they were there the day before. They were like, do you like this? Do you think this needs to look a little bit different? And are you happy with this? And I was like, yeah, this looks great. And I gave them an opinion about a few things. And then other than that, they did not say another word to me. Like they didn't bother me with anything. They did everything on their own because this is what they do for a living. And they have much better taste than I do. If you are especially a bride like me who like doesn't really have a super specific idea in mind, I highly recommend them. They were absolutely incredible, and they took all of that stress, not only away from me, but away from my family, when normally like it's you and your family putting together the centerpieces and and like the table cards and all the things. And they literally did all of that for me.
Yeah, it was crazy
It was incredible
to walk into it, yeah, and just see, oh, everything is already set up. And then they also did teardown, and the heirloom did parts of that as well. So yeah, our wedding, the venue where we also had our ceremony and reception was called the Heirloom, which I think we've mentioned before.
Yeah.
And then what was the name of the company? It was
Atmosphere Indie.
Yep, Atmosphere Indie. And then we had an incredible DJ. Want to shout out his company. It's called Lights Out Entertainment. I think he either co-owns or is just an associate with the owner, but it's called Lights Out Entertainment, and JT was our DJ, and he did a phenomenal job. Basically, we gave him sort of Cole and I are not very picky when it comes to music. We want something, we said, we want to start out with stuff everybody knows, and then we want to move into the more like dance worthy music towards the evening, and he did just like an absolutely phenomenal job. He made edits to current music so that we could have the instrumentals or songs coming in at specific times. He did all of that, and he did a phenomenal job, so I want to shout him out as well. The Heirloom's food too, every single person that I like was able to talk to during the reception, they just kept raving about the food. So also for the Heirloom, they have their own kitchen. They have their own chefs and staff.
So it's one less vendor that you have to deal with.
Yep.
It's just all together, which was really nice.
And they did everything from obviously the cocktail hour and appetizers, the actual
plated
meals, and they did the
Desserts.
dessert plus the after late night snack. That's the phrase.
Yeah.
So they did everything, and it was all just tremendous. So we had a great wedding experience from start to finish. It was fun in the Heirloom. So like where the guys and the gals are, it's separated by a barn door, so you can hear like each other, like whether it's like you're listening to music and you're giggling about something or whatever it is that you're doing. You can, if you were to listen closely, you could hear one another. And it just, for me, it like ramped up the excitement of like how excited I was to see you, because we did a first look.
Mm-hmm.
We kicked everybody out except the photographer, of course, and did the like sort of barn door reveal. And I don't know how many people I've told this, but I've definitely told the groomsmen, I think some of the bridesmaids, but to tell our audience what I did. So I was getting ready to cry before the door even opened, because I was so excited to see what she looked like. And I just knew like she was going to be absolutely gorgeous, because you kept raving on and on about the hair, how well Kylie did the makeup, and how well the dress looked on you. And so I stopped myself, like, because I didn't want to like you open the door and then I'm crying already, haven't even seen you. So I was more like in shock when I got to see you for the first time. It'll come through. We got our previews for the photos. We don't have everything. You'll see just the shock and awe of my face when those come out. I'm just going to be just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my bride type of look. So
I definitely thought you were going to cry though. And after you explained it to me, where it was like, oh, I was preparing myself. I was like leading myself up to this moment to just know when I needed to pull myself together, made me feel a little bit better. But your reaction versus my dad's reaction were like night and day, and I thought they were going to be the opposite. So like when I got my first look done with my dad had a pretty, I think my poor father, he had more of a stressful day than anybody else, because he was carpooling people to and from the venue, and he was like also taking care of our dogs, and he just had a lot to do before arriving to the venue. And so he was, I think, stressed, and then he was able to pull himself together. And when he got there, I feel like it was all of the stress that he had felt leading up to that moment, on top of being overwhelmed at seeing like his youngest daughter in her wedding dress. And he just absolutely bawled. I've never seen my dad cry like that. And in the moment, I was very like honored, because I think when people first looks are supposed to be emotional like that. And so when I didn't really get that from Josh, and he hadn't explained it to me yet, that was why he like wasn't crying like I expected him to. It was nice to get that reaction from my dad. But I think that I look back on it, and then my dad cried again when we did our first dance, because I wasn't singing the words to our first dance song, but I was reminding him what the words say. And if for anyone that doesn't know, the first dance song between my dad and I it was First Man by Camila Cabello, and it's a song she wrote for her dad. And it's basically, you are the first man that's ever loved me, and now like you're giving me to this new man who loves me, but you'll always be the first man who loved me. So he got a little emotional during that too. But so those moments were absolutely amazing, from my first look with Josh to my first look with my dad to both of our like first dances. I
cried at the altar.
You did cry. And I got a little emotional at the altar as well when we were giving our vows. We asked our Instagram followers to give us some questions or some things to talk about when it comes to the wedding. And one of the questions that was asked was like our favorite moment or the best moment for us. So I'll go ahead and go first. And honestly, it's maybe not a tie. I honestly think my favorite moment was us reading our vows to one another. So I told as many guests as I could, because we got so many compliments on our vows. Like, people at the wedding, like, relentlessly were telling at least me that like our vows were their favorite part of the ceremony and their favorite part of the night, and they were very heartfelt. There was no part of our vows that were not unauthentic to like who Josh and I are. We spent months and months writing and rewriting and editing
so true.
Our vows. And I think that was the part of the whole thing that I was most nervous about, because I was like, there's always this thing where you write your own vows where you don't want your partners to be like so sentimental and amazing, and then yours not be like as sentimental, because you need them to be like at least a little balanced
close,
in that.
Yeah.
And I was just so worried, because I know how amazing Josh is with his words and how like thoughtful and sentimental he is. I was like, my vows are not going to come anywhere close to his.
And they did.
They did. And I was so nervous about the vow part. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through reading these vows without crying or like becoming really emotional. And I think we both did a really good job of getting through the vows, but still like having enough emotion. But anyone that knows me, when I public speak, I talk really fast. And so I like literally am very proud of myself. I'm not going to lie, because I even asked my mom, who had been an English teacher her whole career. I'm like, hey, how did I do? Because I think I blacked out a little bit during the vows. But I reminded myself after every single period in the sentences, I would take a deep breath. And that was like my reminder to read the sentences slowly. And I feel like everyone has told me that like you and I both did a really great job with our vows. So I think that was one of the best parts, if not the best part for me, because it was one of the things I was most nervous about and uncomfortable with, the fact of speaking from my heart in front of so many people. So I think that's my best moment. Your turn.
Yeah. The easy answer is I adored getting to listen to your vows. I loved getting to speak my heart as I was giving my vows. Like, that's the really easy answer. However, there was a moment too where when we walked back into the dressing rooms, it had opened up, the guys on the girl side was connected at this point. Our whole crew came back with us, and each and every single person, bridesmaids, groomsmen, came in and gave us a hug and told us how much they loved us. Like, that wasn't planned at all. It was one of my favorite moments of the whole night.
Yeah.
Just because it's so unique. We've talked about it before. It's so unique that my friends are your friends and vice versa. And just, it's one big happy family that we've created here in this smaller, big city that we got so lucky to have. And I'm just so grateful that all of them could be there and we got to share that with them. And then aside from that too, like, getting to the first dance with you was great, because like it was so us. It was giggly. I got to kiss you. I got to twirl you. Like, all of that fun stuff. It was phenomenal. And then, yeah, obviously I think, like I said, JT did a great job. We danced the night away. We got to dance with each other, with our friends. it was so much fun. And there's not a thing that I would say I absolutely did not like happening or despised or anything like that. I think you're going to come up with the question of what would you do differently?
Yeah. But
it's really hard for me to come up with something. So we can transition into that.
I will say, I think when a lot of people talk about their weddings, and maybe this is me just being cynical, but people are like, oh, it's the best day ever. I wouldn't change a thing, blah, 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 whatever. Honestly, I think those people are lying. But like when Josh and I say that this was like basically perfect, like I would say it was at like a 98% of just how we wanted it to be, how the day ran itself, how smooth everything was, like our guests being happy, us being happy, all the things. Like literally was like probably for me it was like at a 98.5%.
Yeah.
And I do just briefly want to touch on our bridesmaids and groomsmen were absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire day, throughout the entire night. Everything from checking on us, seeing if we needed food or water or anything like that. Like they were on it. Plus, it was another really favorite moment of mine was we had every single person, and we weren't forcing anyone. We said, take it or leave it. You are more than welcome to say something, but you don't have to. And we had every single person in our wedding party be like, no, I want to say something.
Yeah.
And
even Lance said a few words.
I know. And like and it was great because honestly, a lot of them could basically tell the same story. They were all basically there the night that we met and were able to see our relationship progress. But so many of them did such a great job of making their speeches really unique, but still like in the same theme of being a part of the squad, and the squad's a family and just all the things.
Yeah.
So hearing all of them speak was amazing.
Yeah. So that was really fun. Hearing your dad get to speak too was really great.
Yeah. He did a really great job. I was very proud of him. I think my mom and dad did a great job of, as much as we are very much the hosts of the wedding, families of the bride and groom are also playing host and hostess. And I think that my parents especially did a really great job of trying to talk to as many people as they could and like checking on us, but still enjoying themselves and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I cannot express enough how incredible that day was. I'm very proud of myself it's no secret. I struggle with anxiety, and leading up to the day, I was very anxious, but I just kept trying to be very present and reminding myself that there were things that were going to be out of my control, and that's fine. And I feel like I nailed our wedding day. Very few tears. I felt like I was a rock for a lot of people. Did a great job of mingling and trying to include people and not focus solely on myself and my best friends and whatever. I honestly think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is when I look back on that wedding day, I feel like I held myself together really well, but I also was fully able to enjoy myself and just let loose and have a good time. And it was amazing.
I'm proud of you for how well you did.
Thank you.
You were my rock that day.
Okay, so let's move into another question we got was anything that we would change about the wedding.
Yeah, this is really hard. And I know
it is really hard.
I know probably what you're going to answer.
Yes, because I told Josh that our vendors were absolutely incredible. Not one of them I have anything negative to say. The people who helped us make this day, what it was, incredible. We chose a long time ago to not get a videographer. And I think looking back on the day, that's literally, and I'm not kidding when I say the only thing, that is the only thing that I would change.
Yeah. We got some clips from people that were recorded, but it was primarily just during the ceremony.
Yeah.
Nobody really recorded. I think with a couple of exceptions, they recorded your father-daughter dance. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment. It's different when you have a dedicated person going through and recording. It was a cost thing we were looking at. And we just decided not to. And I think I'm in agreement with that. I wish we could have it, but we have some clips from that day, and definitely a lot of pictures.
I was going to say, and the pictures I know are going to do an amazing job of capturing that whole day. I think that it would have been, it's just hard because I don't think it's not really the wedding video that I wanted. It's more just, yeah, little bits and clips of the day. But like the
Capturing those
whole,
moments, yeah.
yeah, where like they put everything together in this really like sappy, like sad song. I don't want that. I just want like moving pictures of the day.
Yeah.
As like a memory kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that.
But I still think in the grand scheme of things, that's a very small, like, I other than the videographer, one thing that I loved that the heirloom did was after the ceremony was done, like the second it was over, they had one of their waiters bring Josh and I each one of our signature cocktails and a plate of the hors d'oeuvres, just in case, like, because they knew we were about to go straight into family pictures and then straight into greeting people. So they brought it back to our dressing room. I like chugged my margarita. Who's surprised by that? But then I definitely wish I could have gotten more shrimp, but that's my own fault and not their fault.
I ate quite a few things off of that plate. I'm glad that I did that. But the problem was, like, both of us had some people to go meet and see.
Yeah.
And like we did go meet and see people together, and we did that separately, which I'm glad because I think we covered more ground that way.
I think so too.
But it ended up meaning that, yeah, you didn't get as much food up front.
But honestly, I'm proud of both of us. Like, we made sure to like eat enough and drink enough water.
Yeah.
And we constantly had people checking on us, which was great. Even we had our own like personal waiter too, who like was just serving Josh and I, and she would come up and be like, do you guys need more water? Do you need this? Which was really nice. But I'm very proud of, with the amount of alcohol that is consumed on a wedding day and a wedding reception, things can absolutely get out of hand. And not one thing got out of hand at our wedding. Yeah. It was perfect. The reception was perfect. Like, people were enjoying themselves to the point where people were dancing like crazy people and whatever, but it was like very just who we are and who our friends are. And it felt very natural. And yeah, it is crazy how amazing that day was.
Yeah.
Like, from start to finish. Yeah. I had such a good time with the girls getting ready and just like goofing off with them. And then it was just, I'm going to be talking about it forever, I feel like.
It's unfortunate it goes by so fast. Marcy gave me that advice. She's make sure you like sit back and realize like what's happening.
Yeah.
And I made sure to do that and just take it in.
Yeah.
Essentially live in the moment, because it goes by so fast. We spent probably more time than most people do planning for their wedding day, because we just had a long engagement, but all that time, and then it's over in a matter of 6-7 hours. It's kind of crazy.
I think it's hard, especially brides, when they're planning a wedding, to like, the day is very much about you and your husband. But at the same time, I think most people would agree with me that it's hard to not think about, I want to make sure all of my guests have a great time, especially if they're traveling, or this wedding might be a tad inconvenient for them timing wise or anything. And the amount of people that have spoken to Josh and I or our families and said everything was amazing. The food was amazing. The music was great. The vibes, the venue, all the things just makes all of this like worth it.
Yeah.
The fact that it got validated by our guests, like countless people told us that this wedding was incredible. And that makes me feel like I think any bride and groom can enjoy the day for themselves, because everyone's focused on you and everyone's worried about you and all the things. But like, me having a good time and us having a good time being validated by like our guests, just, I feel like, made me realize the day was really as amazing as I thought it was.
Yeah. That validation certainly makes things like feel a lot better, because I'm the same way. I want to make sure the people that we've invited have a good time.
Yeah.
Let's quickly move on to the honeymoon to wrap up the episode. Just talk a little bit about some of the things that we got to do. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and you start.
So this was both of our first times to Jamaica. We went to a sandals resort, and it was, I told Josh this, and I told a couple of the workers there too. When I thought of sandals, I thought of those like really stupid commercials of a man and a woman like holding hands running down a beach.
Their marketing needs some TLC.
Yeah. And so when I let Josh plan the honeymoon, and when he first told me that we were going to go to a sandals resort, I was definitely a little hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing. I've been to a lot of all-inclusive resorts before. I will say that I don't think they had like the nicest rooms or anything like that, but the food at this place and the drinks at this place were so much better than all of the other all-inclusives that I've been to. That's like the biggest thing for me is the food. There were so many different restaurants. There were like basically like two sides of this resort we went to. One was on a hill and one was like by the Caribbean. And so you could just basically take this shuttle ran every 5 minutes and it would just take you back and forth. That was another thing I was like worried about, but it was so easy. This thing, you would hop on this thing. I think the max time we waited for one of these little buses was like maybe 10 minutes, and it takes 3 minutes to get over there. And then like you stay over on the other side and do whatever for several hours. And then this thing ran 24 hours a day. It was it was so convenient.
Yeah.
Everything about it was so nice.
I spent countless hours, and you know this because you were getting frustrated with me because I couldn't pick a place. I landed on Sandals because one of my friends ended up going to a Sandals resort for his honeymoon as well. I think two actually. And basically I had the same sentiment. Like if you've ever watched The Office, they dig at Sandals a little bit because of Michael and Jan. Anyway, their marketing again just needs some TLC because it was one of the best resorts, if not the best resort I've ever stayed at. And there's a couple of reasons. One, the food, like you said.
Food was amazing.
There were so many options. We splurged and got a butler. We had 2 butlers. They would take shifts, and that was absolutely incredible. They met every single need. We couldn't get bug spray in the gift shop. Like nobody could find it for us. Sure enough, our butler showed up that night with bug spray.
And this was after his shift was over. He still came to our room and delivered us bug spray.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely incredible. The place we were at, so we had a private pool, which we shared with our neighbor. We got to utilize that. We had one of the larger pools, like a party pool, on our side of the resort. And then you go to the other side. There were several more quiet pools. They had a pool that was called the Beach Club where they were playing music with a DJ, had a swim-up bar. And it was just the thing that I loved most about it, and this is turning into a Sandals advertisement, is the amount of options.
Yeah, for sure.
You stay on a vacation for 7 days, and people like Cole and I, we get fidgety when we're stuck in one place for like too long.
Yeah.
And we're just not the type of people that can sit on a beach chair for a week. Like we just can't do it. There's options for going, and you could play tennis if you wanted to. You can swim and drink all day if you wanted to.
Paddleboard, kayaking, like you name it. And all this stuff was included too.
Yeah. And then we did the natural resort thing, and we did a couple excursion activities. And the best part about it was we did this one where it was like 3 things in one, where you got to party on this boat, you got to snorkel at a coral reef, and then you got to hike up a waterfall. If you looked at our Instagram, you would find those. I think you put it in a reel too, and some of the things that we did.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like we met a lot of really cool couples from all over, and they did a lot of excursions, which is great, but excursions are extra when you go to all inclusives. And so we met this kind of random couple one day that was from Georgia, and they were like, oh, we went on the catamaran. And we were like, okay, tell us about it. And they were like, you go on this beautiful boat. They take you out to the reef and they let you snorkel over there. And then they take you to what's called Dunn's River Falls. It's part of, like Dunn's River, that like resort over in a different part of the island. But so you would hike up this waterfall, which was like, and I'm not kidding, like we weren't wearing tennis shoes and like hiking clothes. We were wearing water shoes and bathing suits, and we hiked up over almost 1,000-foot waterfall. It was crazy, and it was so much fun. And then we were able to get back on the catamaran, and on the way back, like unlimited food, unlimited booze, and they turned on it like a DJ, and it became a huge party. And it was very cheap for all 3 of those things.
Oh yeah, it was like $150, and it was like what, like I don't know, 5 hours.
I was
going to
say the fact that we got to do all of these things for such a small, and that was like the only extra thing we paid for. Besides, obviously, everything else was like included.
Yeah, we got a massage. Though,
and the massage.
The other thing, yeah.
That's the way to do it. If you're going to go to a place and you want to do excursions, is find something like that kind of combines a bunch of things and doesn't waste half of your day with traveling somewhere. But it's an amazing place because, yeah, we could sit at the pool and drink all day for a day or two, but then we wanted to go out and swim in the Caribbean, and we wanted to do this and do that, and there were so many different options that we just never got bored.
Yeah, that's the great way to put it.
And probably could have stayed a lot longer without getting bored.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we actually mentioned, so there's 2 sandals in Jamaica. So there's Montego Bay. I think there's 2. Maybe there's 3.
I think there's 3.
There's the one in Montego Bay. I don't know where the third one is, but we stayed in Ocho Rios. It's called Sandals Ochi. So that just, we were blown away.
Yeah, it was. And again, I've gone to a lot of different resorts, different all-inclusive resorts in Mexico. And I've always said the staff at these resorts are amazing. They love their jobs. They love being able to meet people from all over the world and all the things. But the people in Jamaica they were unreal. The hospitality, the kindness, the just willingness to bend over backwards and like people are like, that's their job. That's what I'm like, no, you don't understand. And we can't even explain it. You just have to experience it.
You're you're not supposed to tip them, with the exception of butlers. Yeah. You're like not allowed to tip these folks. And yet we had bartenders going and getting us food that we never asked for.
Right. Like literally, I will, and I'm going to shout him out and maybe, who knows, tag him on Instagram because we're friends on Instagram now. We met a bartender, his name is Marland, who like literally heard us talking about French fries, like to each other, not even to him. And he left the bar and went over to the restaurant that was like next door and got us plates of French fries and Jamaican patties. Like, we didn't ask for them. We were just incredibly friendly, and we started to like bond with him. And he just took it upon himself to do this for us. It is just absolutely mind blowing. Like, they are just some of the most amazing people I've ever met. And they are probably the biggest reason why I would go back to another place in Jamaica in a heartbeat versus Mexico or any other place.
Yeah. I think that just if people are looking for advice from us or takeaways from the trip, 2 things from my end. The kids need to go on vacation, but especially for a honeymoon or a couples retreat, Sandals is great in that regard because there's no kids allowed.
I was going to say, how did we not already mention honestly, one of the best things about the resort was that there was not a child in sight.
Yeah, it's a different atmosphere because like when adults are having to also manage their kids or there's a lack of management for kids, it just results in chaos. We've seen that happen at resorts before we've been to. And then the other thing for me is we didn't take off immediately on our honeymoon after the wedding. We were able to sit down, open our gifts, make sure the house was in order, and then we were able to go. Yeah. And it just like that it involved taking an extra vacation day, whatever. It meant that we arrived at our honeymoon like fully rested.
I was going to say, it's worth taking the extra PTO day or whatever because more often than not, if you go like later in the week, the flights are probably cheaper. But also, like, trust me, it is worth it because you wake up the next morning after your wedding, and I cannot imagine anything worse than having to sit on a plane and be in airports and doing all the things. So taking that like extra day and a half to recover was so worth it.
For sure. All right.
That was a lot.
That was our honeymoon and our wedding episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully maybe you got something out of it.
Honestly, we probably will keep mentioning wedding/honeymoon throughout this season in episodes because we could probably go on for days about both of these things.
Maybe that's our new job. We just go and review places we travel. That sounds pretty great.
There you go.
All right. Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.